Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk with Kiet podcast, where we connect people, ideas, and capital to make a difference in the world. Today, I am on with Nicola Breyer, the CEO of Finleap Connect. Nicola and I will talk about her extensive career and entrepreneurship journey, as well as how to build a business around open data. Nicola, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Keith, it's so great to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for being here. Now, Nicola, as part of tradition, where we start, it's really around the origin story. So, what is the origin story for Nicola?
But the origin story here is that I shouldn't be in an entrepreneurial setting, but I was kickstarted by an English teacher who thought I should be in an entrepreneurial mindset. And she put me into this entrepreneurial mind program, and then I ended up studying. In Europe and being in a master in international management kind of role. But anyway, look, I forgot about this for a long time. And now for the last 18 years, I've come into being an actual entrepreneur and leading companies through change. So, but I take it back to my teacher and she's been cool.
And you spent quite a career within the data and open data space. So, how do you get started into the space of open data?
I never ended thinking about this, but in the end, I was starting to look into data when we looked into financial services back into the late 90s, and so I feel that I've come full circle that we now look at open data and open finance economies. When we originally thought that we were trying to convince people that, going to their bank account in an online way was a safe and secure way. But yeah, that's where we started.
And I guess for the wider audience, like, what is open data?
What is open data? So to me, we're thinking about a status where you and I, Pete, we have a data wallet. You have a data wallet, I have a data wallet, and we carry all of our data, our merits, everything we do. Someone also gives us a promotion at work. We do this live cast, and someone thinks this is cool. We carry this all around with us, and people approach us and we think, hey, yeah, someone approaches us and they say, okay, we would like for you to use this data. And then we go, okay, we would be happy to do that. And then you give me X amount of euros for this. And to me, all this is tracked. We can say this is for a certain duration of time. This is my ideal set of time. You and I have been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
We're not there yet, but open data to me is in an economy where data is a transferable currency. People will put value on it, and it's shared more and more responsibly and in a regulated environment. And
Got
it's
it.
not only banking data, which obviously I work in right now, but it's
Yeah.
anything we can make accessible through APIs.
Well, it was funny because I wasn't fully aware until you and I started talking, and then as mentioned earlier, I now start to go to a lot of these like government websites, like even like cities, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like the data they disclose,
Yes.
it's amazing. Like there's employment data, there's traffic data, there's all kinds of data now that's being federated to the public.
Yes. Not even only that. I've challenged. I only have two people now working with us on content. One is in product and one is in marketing. And I've now asked them to share some of their experiences with ChatGPT. We don't want to do this naturally, but look, there's so much out there. Data is out there, and maybe we don't need to recreate all of website content, and ChatGPT does it for us. But to be taken with caution. But yes, of course, if you want to move to a new city, there's a lot of interactive stuff that can be done.
So the question I have is then, and talk to us a bit about Finleap Connect as well, is if data is public, how do you build a business around open and public data?
Well, I think there's this aggregated data that should be public and should be available, but I think the beauty and the value lies around one-to-one data, whether it be you be as a retail customer or as a business, and that needs to be traded in a certain and secure environment. But yes, and so whether it be around your know your customer information, your verification, we're at the moment we're in these very, very, very simple use cases that are around mostly about compliance. But there's ample opportunity about identifying yourself as a company or giving away a little bit more data about yourself as a person, and you could make so much money with that if you trust the system. And I'm a very big advocate for these trends that we can see that we can make available around our data profiles.
Yeah. And so tell us a bit about Finleap then. So you became CEO last year of Finleap, and they provide solutions on connecting open data monetization.
Indeed. So we work with a lot of companies to essentially identify people to exactly what I've just told you, right? Account verification, and we connect bank account data to a lot of use cases. And now we're approaching more and more steady state, and we're actually analyzing a lot more data, and we're talking to a lot more of our customers about this data. And it's been a journey. A lot of companies are going towards this transition from receiving a lot of money and then burning a lot of money towards becoming profitable. And that's exactly the journey we're on. And it's very interesting. It's a good path, but it's an interesting journey to go from. I came in, I didn't know how much path we had to receive money, but yeah, so financial independence is an interesting path to be striving for, and we're on a good way to get there.
So you don't mind me asking. So I
Please,
googled it,
no.
right? So Finleap seemed to have raised a lot of money before you got there. So what it
Yes.
sounds like, a lot of it's gone. So how do you navigate that story to coming in now? You have an existing team, products that was built. How do you decide where to go next from that journey, and how do you bring in new capital? Like how's that?
It's interesting you asking this because it's actually very simple, and the most simple thing is focus. So we have decided to let go of several business lines that were not SaaS or technology, and we're trying to bring in this product as a service, and really becoming a technology company again, rather than a project business that has a lot of OTRs. And we've been successful. So I'm hoping that as we go along, you and I will write about our customer success stories that are coming. But yes, so this is exactly the point. We are having to change this company from a project business to a SaaS business. And we're doing a good job, I think, and we're about 8-9 months down the line. And so I think this year will tell the story, but we're quite confident, and we are going to hit the rule of 40, which is the ever demanding rule investors want to see.
Yeah. Now, how do you lead in that environment? Because it sounds like you're like a plane in midair where you need to change the engine, right? Because the plane still needs to fly, but the engine needs to be changed.
Yes.
Like, how do you navigate leadership in that environment?
What I try to do is to empower everyone else.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bring in more people who carry the belief and who will actually be the carrier of the story and the energy. I know. I mean, we have all these normal regular principles of all hands townhouse, whatever you want. But I actually believe that it's about ownership and distributing ownership. And one of the things we've done is we've taken in our governance structure, we are now given power of attorney to 7 people rather than to 3. And so we're trying to give a lot more people the signing power. With that, we hope that's actually going to take consideration and ownership, but also budgets towards a more distributed way of owning decisions.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you're now not only one individual riding the boat, you have a larger team. Yeah, that can go there with you, right?
And you know, they will. I hope, and I think I speak with for them. They also speak for us, and they're our party. And then if they need to sign, I think that whole party of making something, you know, be relevant is just taking a little bit taking a little bit down the line.
Yeah. So, jumping back again to open data, because now you've opened up, like, I'm like a kid in a candy store, right? I'm learning more
Yes.
about open data, what it means globally. Like, how do you see it playing out? Like, is Europe more advanced? Is Asia? Is the States? Like, where do you see it today?
I mean, look, we have a trend and technology advantage around a regulated state that comes out of Europe. And we have 85 countries adhering to it. That's unheard of, right? That's a technology trend coming out of Europe. And now we're getting from PSD2 to PSD3. So there's a lot of new stuff coming in. But I think, obviously, as always, we need to look into Asia and the US because we have next to zero or very little data protection topics for individuals. But also, as you are going, it's like, where does this go next? And I think I'm very excited to see some money being made out of those established markets. But also, I'm very excited about the stuff you do and the stuff you come up with in your own new business to generate a currency out of data. I mean, that's what we're actually super interested in.
And you mentioned last time we were talking, like, some of the interesting thing that you see coming out of Australia.
That's
like,
true. We
share a
can
bit of
talk
that with the
about this.
audience. Yeah.
Okay, so look, I mean, we have about 90 countries adhering to PSD2, the standard that means exchanging data for something else. And Australia has always been following, and Jamie, my friend Jamie, if you're listening, a fantastic model. And they have now approached already an open data standard that is beyond and way beyond Europe. And they're basically saying, hey, you already have to open up to energy data and other sources that then you can start to use to put profiles together, etc., for consent. And for once, Australia is actually ahead of the curve. And I'm very curious. And I think last time this was starting to be implemented. But we're now in implementation phase. And I think we need to be into scaling phase and then see some stats. But very, very excited that Australia, for once, is a forefront of the open data world.
Yeah. And then how do you see the next phase? Like, what are some of the, I guess, applications that you think that can derive out of now more countries participating, more cities and more municipalities, and even companies publishing open data?
Well, like you said, like, where's the value in it, right? And so I think it's interesting to see what's the tradable part of data.
Yeah.
And I think, as always, it might start with the consumer. And we've been talking about this data wallet thing, and that the standard needs to be there. And is it an Apple, or is it the government of different states? But essentially, I think at some point one of us is going to carry all of our data treasure around with us and say, hey, I'm going to share this part of my data with this person for this part of time. okay, this is just a personal thing, but also what you're alluding to is saying that, hey, companies generate data on a daily basis, and we should make not only the tradable, the actual business relationships and whatever we have to file, but the data we generate around, as you say, ESG and stuff, that data should be contributing, if it's positive, to our business results. So I think we're in a data economy, and we're going to see value being impacted way more by different types of analysis based on data that's available by our footprint that we generate.
So essentially, like everyone has their own data backpack, right? And how these
Correct.
backpacks come together.
Yes. Whether it be us as an individual or a company, that's exactly it. We carry out our data backpack.
Yeah. And I guess with that, you can then build different types of commercial model that's actually hasn't been done before, right? In a way.
No, also you can protect yourself, right? You can sort of say, as you saying, look, it's a commercial model to also basically say we can create value for money, but at the same time we also can create protective models in terms of risk assessment. But yes, essentially, I believe that we will be. And I know that you believe this as well. We will use our own data as a company or as an individual, and we will generate value, financial value out of that going forward, much more than we do today.
Yeah. And now, how does it work with? We're seeing more and more certain countries with around the concept of data sovereignty, and that itself is becoming a dimension. I think we saw the situation with TikTok, right? And we're seeing
Yes,
more and more around the the boundaries that borders are creating with this whole data sovereignty.
I think time will tell. I think the majority of people and their use cases will be what prevails. And as long as we live in democratic structures, they
Yeah,
will just want to do what they want to do. And then, as long as you then create the use cases that are fine, you need to obviously create the protection around it that is necessary. But I think what we're doing in Europe at the moment is we're anticipating um, some data protection that, yeah. To be honest, maybe we've already gone way beyond where we were, and maybe we're trying to catch up on something
yeah,
that's. But yes, of course. I mean, if we want to, we should be very acknowledgeable of platforms that are completely violating our own democratic data protection structures. At the same time, we should also ask ourselves why these are so successful and people are happy to use them. So,
that's right. That's right.
and then adopt them and be so. I'm in two minds about all of them, to be very honest. And
Yeah,
I'm consistently in my circle of friends who's probably a bit more conservative and a bit more older. I get consistently pushback on the fact that I'm actually quite pro trialing and using some of these platforms.
yeah, yeah. Well, you and I are on the same page. So
Good.
now we will not do this call justice if we don't throw in AI and ChatGPT.
That's very
So
true.
so throwing AI ChatGPT into the equation with open data, like what does that mean?
Did you throw me and my name into it? I did actually, and in fact, I came up with nothing, which is a bit disappointing. We are actually trying to start using ChatGPT very actively in our marketing
Yeah,
part. That we're launching a new brand, right? And we're trying to talk about positioning, etc. Um, it's very agnostic and it's very generalist, but to be honest, it could save you a lot of time and then you just have to adjust. Um, it's scary at part. If you kind of say, okay, please generate me a text about our product positioning that is based on competitor X, and it will do it. I think I think the advancement we've been seeing over the last 2 years or 1 year and a half is staggering. I think as good humans do, let's look at it, let's use it, and let's be aware of it, right? That's what I'm thinking, because if we don't engage with it, we will lose out.
That's right.
And I'm fully aware that, you and I may be sitting not as humans. I've heard about this conversation where a Japanese person is being run by an AI now. And so maybe in 2 years' time, you and I will not be sitting together at all. And that's okay if it's promising success.
That's right. Though I do see and I don't think we're there yet as a society where you think about data licensing. Like most data companies have licensing models to humans, but there's no licensing model to machines. Like I would imagine, like I wonder what it looks like in the future where actually ChatGPT and other machine
Interesting.
learning
Yeah.
license data directly without any human involvement. Like what happens in that environment?
I think you will have statistics, research stuff, whatever at your hands in a nanosecond, and you'll be used to having that. I think where it gets interesting is more complex decision making models that also have diplomatic or people things involved. I'm fully aware. I think that we are entering that date and time of diplomatic and sort of emotionally aware AI, and this is where it gets interesting in terms of saying things like, out of 50 times this kind of emotion or substance kind of situation, a decision was made that went this way, and in 3 or 4 times down the line was unsuccessful. And so therefore you should go the other way. I think, these are the kind of things that are coming, and they're coming now and within 2 to 3 years. If they're
Yeah.
not there already. And this is where we're going, okay, so we are redundant as humans in many points. And I think that's where we should be very humble and understand where still as leaders, we often kind of go, okay, we need it. But yes, so as decision makers, we're not. And so I think a lot of stuff is happening. Whilst I think it's quite wild to have a company who has an AI as a leader, but that's clearly the way we're going, because whilst our shareholders like to have a person to speak with, they also want efficiency. And so I wish sometimes I could give them more efficiency.
So you actually see the possibility one day of a company being run by an AI.
As I said, it's already happening.
Yeah.
Do I actually think it's the right thing to be done? Is out there, but it's happening and it's starting to happen. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, do you see the need for? I know the original concept of open AI, some of the open data was to really build, um, I guess, controls, but also safety nets, right?
Yes.
For as a society, because I do think there's potentially also bias filtering into the AI. Like, I'm not sure if you've used some of these like news platform, etc. Like, I feel like I'm living in a filter world that's like filter bias for me, and that's why I go to every global news platform and I realize a bias based on the platform I'm on. Like, what is your view around like AI standards and just making sure we're
Look,
doing the right thing?
I come from a world where I'm not in the news world. I'm in the world of financial data for most
Yeah,
of. I mean, and the data we're looking at is non-biasable because it's generated by you as a person, right?
yeah.
And that's still the data set we're kind of working with, and that's starting to be commercialized. So it's the data set that you as a person generate, your footprint, and the way that we can potentially help you gain access to financial means in a different way than we could before. And I think that's the most basic part. So there's little open AI to that, to be honest. But again, in this infrastructure, to get access to all the credit cards, to get access to your wealth accounts, it's none of that is a standard that is being provided by the industry. So we're still at the early days. But yes, so by principle, if you were to share all of your data around your wealth, you could make different decisions, and so therefore OpenAI is a decision making framework around your data. So the question is just how much data do you feed into it, and how much data are you able to feed into it in a regulated and secure standard to then provide more value back to you. And I think we're way not there to get there, even though we have some of the regulatory framework.
Oh, so it's interesting. So your perspective of personalized AI, essentially taking your personalized data and really helping improve your personal decision making, which is
Yeah, I mean, if you do that, then obviously you would expect to do that in your business side and for companies. And I know that you're looking to do that in a more aggregated way. So my question to you back would be, what would be your view of the aggregate of the business side of this?
yeah. I mean, I do think if in the future if there's a platform that enables people to realize the value of their data and monetize it inside a network and kind of have that data value chain,
Yes.
then it will enable not only individuals but companies to decide where to send their data and how to monetize it in aggregate, right? Which today doesn't really exist. Today you're stuck with a few platforms, and that option is really not there.
You and I agree on these kind of things, so it's hard to have a controversial position.
And so, lastly, with how we usually end the podcast, and thank you for being on today. It's very insightful of a topic. The question is really more for you in terms of how can the audience that's listening help Finleap Connect. What are the type of audience you want to connect with?
I would like to understand more about individuals who would like to join us on the development side in terms of building connectivity, building access to data. So talent really is always welcome. But the other thing that I'm really passionate about is actually the future of the development on access to data in the European world, and how we build a more interesting ecosystem around talking about this. So anyone who wants to talk about the free use of data in a regulated environment, and how we continue to build the open data rather than open banking environment should contact me. And I will be extremely interested in talking about use cases and how we can make this a viable part of our data sharing business and industry.
No, thank you, Nick. Actually, elaborate that a bit, because I think it's interesting. Because when you talk about open data, people tend to think about open banking,
No.
right? That's
Yeah,
what's
that's
being leveraged
exactly.
in terms of for banking apps, but it's beyond that, right?
Yes, it's way beyond that. So in Australia already, and if my friend Jamie listens to this, Jamie, I'm reaching out to you. So Australia already has a regulation whereby other parts of the world need to contribute APIs. So be it electricity providers or trade or government. And we today we have a standard that banks need to, if proven consent, be able to grant access to bank transaction data. This now needs to change, and we will need to give so much more data availability around electricity provision, government stuff, etc., moving data, and that data will be proven by tokens and different other validation methods. And the EU is working on it, and so we the people in this industry, we're not that sexy, it's all about open banking, open data. But what we're working on is essentially to provide, as I say, a 360 view on a person's data. And what's important to me to say with that is this data is shared only when the person actually gives consent. And that's where the European Data Protection Act comes from. And I'm sorry, there we go, Kiet.
Great. We learn something new every day. That's very interesting. Thank you, Nicola, so much for being on today. Appreciate
Thank
your
you so
time.
much for having me.
Have a great day. Thank you, everyone, for your continued support to continue to listen. We'll speak again next week. Have a good one, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.